Hey everyone, I'm Sison, and today I'm doing 5 things that I like about the Sony A7R IV. So I've been playing around with this camera for a few days now. I do have to say I love it. I do like the handling of it as well. But before I go into that, I just want to say that these are basically 5 things that I personally like about the A7R IV. You may or may not agree with what I'm saying, but that's entirely up to you. But without further ado, let's just go right into it. All right, so first things first, I do love the ergonomics and the handling of it. I think a lot of people have actually said that in other YouTube videos, but much beefier design, which is great, especially if you're holding it for long periods of time or you have longer lenses or heavier lenses. So it's gonna make it a lot easier to hold. That is something that I think a lot of people have been clamoring on about and saying that, you know, while the A7 III is great and it is an improvement from its predecessors, this is even better. And I will say, if anything, go ahead and try it out with heavy lenses, see how you prefer or how you like it. But in saying that, I do love how it's basically an evolutionary design on Sony's A7 cameras when it comes to, say, having a lock on your exposure compensation dial, because I actually accidentally switch the exposure for some reason during my travels, or if I'm just walking around, I just somehow switch it. So it's great that there is a lock on it now. I do like how Sony have included 2 UHS-2 card slots. Now on the previous cameras like the A7 III or A7R III, they only had 1 UHS-2. So that is a great addition to have. One thing that I do really like is the electronic viewfinder. So it's a lot sharper, it's a higher resolution one as well. And I will say it's getting close to how an optical viewfinder is. But obviously you do have the benefits of what you see is what you get, as well as overlaying different types of information in the EVF as well. So that's great. The ports have sort of been redesigned as well, because there was a lot of flack that Sony copped for having a weather resistant body. But I think there was a test that I watched not too long ago about weather resistance, a comparison between different cameras and how weather resistant and how durable a camera was when it came to dust and moisture, and I think Sony came out last on that. So it's great that Sony have actually took that feedback upon themselves and redesigned the weather resistance of the A7R IV. So that's great to see. But I do like how the buttons feel a bit more cushiony as well. It makes it a lot easier to push, especially if you have gloves on. So if anyone that's shooting in cold conditions and they need gloves, and it's a lot easier to press now. And I do like how they have redesigned the on the A7R IV. It's a lot easier to push and navigate as well. Number 2 is RealTime AF in video. I do like how they have this function now. Obviously, I'm not going to get this camera for RealTime AF. I do have that in my RX100 Mark 7, but you know, having it in a full frame is great. I do love how Sony are constantly innovating on their cameras and autofocusing systems, which is great. IAF, they pretty much nailed it, 99% nailed it. But having it in video is going to be great for someone that's walking towards the camera and, you know, still wants to remain in focus. So I might do a quick test. I will do a quick test of that right now. I'm going to overlay it so you can actually see it. Although you won't be able to see the square because I don't have my recorder here, but you're going to see it in real time, and I'll just muck around. I've got some trees here that I'm gonna see that if I can actually do it properly. We'll see if the camera can actually keep up, but I have high hopes for this camera. The 61 megapixels. So while I personally don't need 61 megapixels, I do like that they have that option, because it gives you much more flexibility when cropping, and especially if you're trying to capture something in like really far away where you don't have to actually have a expensive telephoto lens, you can always crop. So for example, I can have my 70-200. If I needed to crop it in like an APS-C format, it'll be 26 megapixels, which is great. I absolutely don't mind just having 26 megapixels in a crop. But that will obviously allow you to get 1.5 times closer to your subject. So a 200mm in full frame would essentially be a 300mm. I'm not great with math, by the way. But also, in saying that, I do like how they have different aspect ratios. So you've got your 16:9, 4:3, 3:2, and your 1:1, which is great for if you want a square format in your photos. So having 61 megapixels will be great. I will say in terms of low light performance, for me, from what I've seen so far, it did take a bit of a hit, but it does still use a backside illuminated sensor, which is going to be handy for low light conditions. But obviously having that extra bump in resolution, there is going to be a bit of a trade-off there. The burst and AF, so it's sort of continuing how Sony have a 61 megapixel sensor in their A7R IV now. It's great that the burst has actually still remained the same. There hasn't been a decrease, and the autofocusing speeds have seemed to be very much a lot faster, well, still improved and still quick for such a high resolution camera. So while it's not going to be your camera of choice for maybe sports photography or wildlife photography, or maybe it might be, but for me personally, having that much resolution is just going to fill my cards so fast. But obviously you've got options in the menu where you can actually turn down the resolution as well. Fifth thing that I do like about it is wireless tethering. So this is in combination with Sony's Imaging Edge software, which is for your desktop. So whether you're using a Mac or a PC, it is available for it. And obviously this omits the use of having to use a USB cable to your computer. Gives you a lot more freedom, especially if you're doing portraits or product shots, anything like that in a studio or just outside. It's entirely up to you. Although I haven't actually tried it in the outdoors, but trying it at home, and it was just cool seeing like real-time tethering through Wi-Fi, which is great. And this makes things a lot easier if you do product shots for different brands or that sort of thing. That's about it for me. Those are my 5 things that I do like about the Sony A7R IV. So if you made it this far and you forgot, let me recap. So the first thing I do like is the ergonomics and design. Second thing is the real-time AF video. Third is the fast shutter speeds, the frames per second, and the autofocusing speed as well. The fourth is having the 61 megapixel sensor, which is the highest to date in a full frame mirrorless camera. And the fifth thing is wireless tethering. So that's about it. What do you think of these new features that Sony have in their camera? Do you like it? If you have an A7R IV, what do you think of it so far? Do you think it was a great purchase for yourself and what you actually do with it? But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram for more sample photos and photo updates of this camera and other lenses that I do videos on. And don't forget to take a look in the description down below for more information about this camera, as well as affiliate links that do support the channel, as well as future projects. Now until then, happy shooting and thanks for watching. So that's about it for me. I'm getting messages. Oh, okay. I do like the ergonomics and the design. So that's about it for me. Do like about the 5, the burst shoot. Oh.